and
큰
transcends
박수로
national borders,
평화의 어머니
race, and
한학자
religion.
총재님,
Please join me in welcoming Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, the Mother of Peace, with a thunderous round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon is joining us. She has come to deliver a special message of hope at this rally for the realization of a heavenly unified world through interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values. This rally heralds the beginning for the realization of a lasting world of peace to help all of humanity to see that we are indeed one family under the heavenly parent. Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon is recognized as the mother of peace, having lived a life of true love solely for heavenly parent and humanity. She never had the leisure to take off her shoes for her own sake. She has gone everywhere from the lowest to the highest of places. Let us welcome her with a thunderous round of applause. Beloved
하늘 부모님 성회 안에
Heavenly Parents, holy community, and
천일국의 축복 가정
respected excellencies,
세계 식구 여러분,
beloved blessed families, members and peace-loving citizens from around the world. I have waited a long time to speak with you again. I'm very pleased to speak with you today.
존경하는
Respected
전현직 대통령,
heads of states,
수상,
prime ministers,
종단장,
and high office holders,
세계 대표
respected
지도자
religious
여러분,
leaders, excellencies, and dignitaries from around the world. In
국민의
particular,
건강과
at the time
안전을 위해서
when various challenges are facing today's
염려하고
world, heads of
수고하고
state
있는 줄
who are
알고 있습니다.
working tremendously to take
그렇기에
care of the health and well-being of
보이는
citizens around the
갈망입니다.
world. And this challenging
공생,
time, our wish
공명,
remains the same
공의에
through interdependence,
통일된
mutual prosperity,
하늘
and
부모님을
universal
중심한
values.
인류
We
한
wish
가족
to realize one
공동체를
family of
원하고
humanity
있습니다.
under the heavenly parent. This remains our earnest
그러나
desire.
인류 역사는
However, when we look at
지금까지
human history,
전쟁의
until now, human
역사입니다.
history has been
오늘도
a sad one of
지금도
continuous
진행되고
conflict.
있습니다.
Even now around the world,
왜 이렇게
conflicts are happening everywhere.
희망된
Why is it
미래가
that
보이지 않을까요?
at this time it is difficult to see a
본래
future filled with hope?
창조주께서는
Originally, the Creator
당신의 꿈을 지상에서
had a dream.
자녀들과
Heavenly
함께
Parent wished to
지상
realize the ideal
이루려
of the kingdom
하셨습니다.
of heaven on earth together with His
그러나
beloved children.
예상치
However,
못한 인간의
due
타락은
to the unexpected fall
오늘날과
of the
같은
first human ancestors,
전쟁의
today's
역사로
world
점철돼 나왔습니다.
is remembered to be one of continuous conflict.
타락하지 않은 만물 세계는
However, when we look at
창조의
nature,
순리대로
nature
나오고
moves
있습니다.
according to the principles which God created. the
예를 들어서
principles of creation. For example,
제왕 나비의
when you look at the
얘기를 하고자
monarch
합니다.
butterflies, you can see an
여러분도 다
incredible
알다시피
example. As
나비의
you are all
일생은
aware,
짧습니다.
the lifespan of a
그러나
butterfly is
몸
relatively short.
길이가 3cm
However,
밖에 안 되는
despite having a
이
wingspan
제왕나비가
of less than 3 inches,
카나다에서
the
여름을
monarch
살고
butterflies
겨울을
travel
지내기 위해
in the summer from
수천
Canada,
킬로미터를 날아
flying thousands of
멕시코까지
kilometers
갑니다.
all the way to Mexico in the winter.
걸리는 거리는
The distance
2개월이 넘습니다.
is so great that it takes
거기서 다시
2 months for the butterflies to reach their destination.
부모가 걸어온 길을
And through this
한 번도
process,
가보지
we can
않은
see
길을
the path that true parents
제왕나비는
have pioneered.
날라서
And
갑니다.
these monarch butterflies make this migration along a route
이것이
that only the parents had taken before.
순리입니다.
We can see the principle of nature in action.
동물 세계도 마찬가지입니다.
It is the same in the animal
인간이
world.
파괴하지 않으면 창조의
If
순리대로
human beings had not abused and
수를 조종하며
destroyed nature,
그 종을
then
지켜나가고 있습니다.
we can see that animals maintain their species and also maintain their reproduction in accordance with principles of creation.
오늘 우리는
Today, we
인간이 타락해서
come to the
잘못되었다 했습니다.
realization that due to the human fall, countless calamities have befallen
잘못된
humanity,
인간에게는
and fallen
창조주와의
humanity
관계가 없다는 얘기입니다.
cannot have the original relationship with the Creator.
창조주께서는
The Creator
원칙을 바꿀 수는 없습니다.
cannot change the principles with which He
그리하여
created heaven and earth.
수고로우신
And that is why Heavenly Parent
판감
has had
이
to walk
섭리를
the long and
이어나오셨습니다.
arduous path of the history of restoration through indemnity. How
6,700년 만에
arduous must have this path been that it took
대한반도에서
6,000 years before
당신의
until in the
창조
Korean
이상을
peninsula, individual who could realize Heavenly Parent's ideal of creation
1960년대
was
참 부모가
that in
탄생되었습니다.
1960, true parents emerged before humanity.
이 반도의
In the Korean
하늘의
peninsula,
복입니다.
this is the homeland of
축복을
heaven's
받은
providence.
민족이나 개인은
Any individual who
하늘
receives
앞에
heaven's blessings
책임을 해야 됩니다.
must fulfill its responsibility before heaven.
과거
In the past,
인간 조상이 될 아담 해와가
Adam and
그
Eve
책임을 못해서
were meant to become
타락한
the first
세계를
human
만들었습니다.
ancestors. However,
그렇다면
because of their fall, they engendered
6,000년 만에
fallen humanity.
참
And for the
부모를
first time in the
탄생시킨
6,000 years,
이 민족
true parents
대한반도
emerged in this
어떻게
country, in the Korean
책임을
peninsula.
해야 되겠습니까?
Hence, what should this people of Korea and this
길은
peninsula
하나입니다.
fulfill as its responsibility? There is but one path.
하늘 부모님을
It is
모시고
to
하나
attend
되는 길밖에
God
없습니다.
and unite as one, centering on God as our heavenly parent.
창조주께서는
The Creator
우리의 부모이십니다.
is our parent.
그동안
Until now,
부모를 몰라보고 불효한
countless
인류입니다.
ages
이
of humanity
불효한 인류
have
앞에
failed to recognize God as the
참
heavenly
부모가
parent
나타나
and failed in the filial duty
다시
as God's children. But
거듭나는
now the true parents have emerged. A new history
축복
has
행사를
begun
통하여
through the marriage blessing, where
하늘
fallen
부모님의
human beings can
자녀로
return to God's
입적시켜주는
bosom
것이
as
축복
God's beloved
운동입니다.
children. That is the essence of the blessing movement.
공생 공용
We speak of
공익.
interdependence, mutual prosperity,
통일된
and
인류
universal
한가족의
values.
공동체.
The realization of a
중심에
unified community of
하늘
humanity
부모님이
under the
계시면
heavenly parent. As long as heavenly
모든
parent
문제가
remains the center
해결됩니다.
of any community or
그러나
family or society, all
오늘의 세계는
problems can be solved. However,
이기주의,
in today's world,
민족주의,
we can see that nationalism, selfishness
하늘과는
are
먼
rampant. These are
관계의
characteristics
기관이나
that are
조직들이 많이
far
있습니다.
from heaven's wish.
우리가 가야 할 길은
There are many organizations and
부모를
initiatives
찾아가야 합니다.
that do not recognize God. Our
부모를
duty is to seek
바르게
for our true
선택에
parent, the heavenly
지상에서
parent.
모시다가
If we live a life of
생을
true attendance
다하여
to the heavenly parent
저
on earth
세상에
and
영원한
upon the
세계에
ascension to
천상
the
천국에
eternal world,
입적할 수
we
있는
can
것입니다.
enter the kingdom of heaven in heaven.
생각해 보세요.
Please think about this.
축복을 받지 않는 새롭게 거듭나지 않은
Unless
가정은
you receive the blessing, you cannot be born again as a blessed family.
하늘 부모님의 자녀가
And
될 수 없다 했습니다.
This family
그러나
cannot be recognized as heavenly
책임진
parents'
가정들은
children. However,
축복받은 가정들은
blessed
책임을
families
해야 합니다.
also have a duty,
위하여
and
사는
that
삶,
duty is to live for the sake of others.
자기만
Blessed
축복받아서는
families
안
cannot be
된다는
content
말입니다.
in keeping the blessing for themselves.
나와
They need
내
to live
이웃과
for the sake of others. They need
종족과
to share
민족과
this blessing
나라와 세계
to
앞에
their neighbors, to their
다 함께
families, to their society,
하늘
expand the
부모님의
blessing to the
사랑을 받을
nation
수
and the
있는
world, so
축복의
that
자리까지
everyone around the world
도달하게 하는
can
것이
receive
오늘
God's
우리가
blessing.
살고 있는
This is the responsibility that we have, and it is also
목표입니다.
the objective of our existence today.
오늘
Today,
이 나라뿐만 아니라 전 세계
not just
모든
in
나라들이
Korea, but all
인간의
around the
무지로
world,
인해서
due to the ignorance
기후변화를
of
만들어냈습니다.
human beings, climate change
본래
is afflicting the
창조주께서
livelihoods of billions of
창조하신
people.
그 아름다운
Originally,
지구를
God created this beautiful earth,
망가뜨리고 있습니다.
and we can see the impact of environmental destruction.
경제력이 있는
And
나라들은
Nations who are relatively better off
우주를
are
나가보자
exploring
하고 있습니다.
space.
그것은
That
참된 방법이라고 말할 수 없습니다.
cannot be seen as the one true solution to all of these problems.
지정하신
God
사랑하는
has
지구입니다.
created this earth
이
with
지구를
love,
버리고
and
떠나겠다는
God wishes human beings to
사람들에게는
live here in harmony
미래가
and
없습니다.
happiness. And simply
우주를
seeking
간다 해서
to go to
영원할 수
space
있습니까?
to avoid the problems on this earth
인생에
cannot be seen as a solution.
삶의
The
시간은 한정돼 있습니다.
our earthly life is limited.
어떻게
How
더 영원한 세계의
can we
삶에 맞는
live a
나와 내
heavenly
가정이
life
되느냐가
while on this
더
earth?
급선무입니다.
The primary duty
그것을 위해서는
is to
지금
lead heavenly lives on this earth in preparation
코로나로
to
인해서
the eternal life in the spirit world. At this
많은
moment,
사상자를 내고 있습니다.
An
서로
incredible number
소통하는
of
일이 많겠습니다.
casualties has been arising because of COVID-19 and
천재지변으로
due to natural calamities
집중호우로 인해
and also
많은
floods,
사상자와
incredible numbers of casualties
이재민이
and also displaced
나왔습니다.
civilians has occurred.
이것 어떻게 생각하십니까?
What do you think when you see these terrible
하늘은
calamities?
창조주 하나님은
Heaven,
사랑이시라
God,
했습니다.
the Creator, is love.
우리의 부모라 했습니다.
God is our parent.
부모가
The parent
자식의
cannot
죽어가는 모습을
see the
보는
children
부모의
dying
심정이
and suffering.
어떻겠습니까?
As a parent, how painful must God's heart be to see his beloved children suffer?
우리는
We,
이 순간부터
from this moment,
특히
in
이
particular,
민족, 이 나라의
the
정치
people
지도자,
of Korea,
종교
the
지도자
religious leaders, the political leaders of Korea,
하늘 앞에
let us
회개와
really repent on our
국률의
knees
기도를
for
드려야 할
our
시간입니다.
shortcomings and really render glory unto heaven.
축복받은 민족으로서의
As
책임은
a blessed people,
세계 형제들을
Korea has a responsibility
참
of
부모를
bringing
통해서
together the
하늘
people of the
부모님의
world
품으로
within
인도하는
the
것이
and guide the
이
people of the
민족의
world to the bosom
사명입니다.
of God. This is the mission of this nation's people.
어정쩡하게 중간에서
We
이래도
cannot
좋고
just
저래도 좋은
be ambivalent about this responsibility.
생각은 접으십시오.
Please put aside any thoughts of
하늘이 주시는
ambivalence.
마지막에
This is
경고요
the
기회인
last
것을
opportunity,
아시기
but
바랍니다.
also warning of heaven to the nation of Korea.
하늘 부모님을 모시는 길만이
It is only when we attend Heavenly Parent
남북의
that the issue
통일하는
of
것이 될 수 있는 것입니다.
North-South reunification, that a true unified Korea can be realized.
한국 주변에 강대국들이 많습니다.
There are many powerful nations in the vicinity of Korea.
그들이 중심이 아닙니다.
They are not the center.
하늘은
Heaven
참 부모를 통해서
through true
섭리의
parents
완성을
is
보려
working
하십니다.
to see the realization of the providence.
이러한 하늘 앞에
Therefore, before
충과 효를
heaven,
다하는
let us become filial sons and daughters. Let us become patriots of heaven,
효선
of the
민족으로서
heavenly nation. May Korea become
세계의
a
모든
nation
나라들
of
앞에
virtue that can stand as a
하늘
beacon
부모님을
of attendance to heavenly
이렇게
parent
모시는
before the world. May
백성과
Korea become the
나라들이
citizen
되어야 됨을
that show the citizens of the
교육하는
world and the nations of the world how to attend heavenly parent
오늘
in our
이
daily
시간이
lives.
되기를
I hope that this
간절히
opportunity may be the starting point of this
축복하는
movement.
바입니다.
I send my
감사합니다.
greetings and blessings to all of you. Thank you very much.
귀한 말씀을 주신 우리 하나님께
Let us give
다시 한번
another big round of applause to our beloved true mother, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon, for her precious message.
오늘 하나님께 총재님 참어머님의
Today,
귀한 말씀을 통해
Dr. Hak Jahan Moon,
공영
True
공유를 통해
Mother, has given us a special message centering on realizing a unified world of peace, centering on the values of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values.
큰 감사의
It is by
박수로
attending
해주시면
Heavenly Parent as our parent that we can indeed realize a heavenly unified world. Let us give Dr. Hak Jahan Moon another big round of applause, please.
세계 순회를 위해 아직도
For
성체가 완전히
Dr. Hak
회복되지
Cha-han Moon
못하시는
has really pushed herself beyond the limits of physical endurance touring the world. And also she came here today to give us a special message. Let us give Dr. Hak Cha-han Moon another warm round of applause to express our gratitude and appreciation for her profound message of hope.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you very much.
모두 자리에
Everyone,
앉아주시기
please
바랍니다.
take your
전
seats.
세계에 있는 모든 분들이
And now, all the participants from around the world really show the big heart on the screen, and this was our filial heart, but it is also the heart with which we want to express our gratitude to one another. Today, Dr. Hak Cha-han Moon gave us a precious message. This really is a message showing us that Heavenly Parent is our original true parent. It is when we attend Heavenly Parent that we can realize a world of unity, peace, happiness, and lasting harmony. Once again, we thank you, Dr. Hak Cha-han Moon. Next, we will continue with our keynote addresses. 4 other heads of state will be speaking today.
다음 세 번째 기조연설은
The third
우리
keynote
라피니
address
니제르
will be
수상께서
offered
해주시도록
by
하겠습니다.
His Excellency
작년
Brigadier
11월
Rafini,
하나카
Prime Minister of
총재님께서
Niger.
방문해
When Dr. Hak Cha-han Moon
전생
visited
공영
Niger
공연을
last
통한
November
신아프리카
for the
건설을
4th
위해
Africa
아프리카
Continental Summit,
유니언과
co-hosted with
에코와스
representatives of the
아프리카
African
공동체와
Union and ECOWAS
공동주체로
to build a heavenly
제4회
Africa
아프리카
through
서밋을
interdependence, mutual
개최하였으며
prosperity, and
무슬림
universal
국가
values,
니제르에서
Niger hosted this
국가기관의
special
청가정
summit.
축복식을 거행했습니다.
Significantly, a national level
당시
marriage
이스라엘
blessing
니제르
ceremony
대통령과
was
함께
held in
브리기
this
라피니
beautiful
수상께서
nation.
성공적인
At the
대회를
time, His
위해
Excellency
적극적인
President
지지와
Mahamadou
큰
Issoufou and
역할을
Prime Minister
다하였습니다.
Brigadier Rafini
그리고 올해 개최된
supported
월드
for
서밋
this summit.
2020에도 참가해
Also, at the
귀한
2020
자리를
summit,
빛내주셨습니다.
Prime Minister Rafini
여러분,
attended the
브리기
2020
라피니
summit.
니제르
Let
수상을
us welcome His
큰 박수로
Excellency
모셔주시면
Brigadier Rafini,
감사하겠습니다.
Prime Minister of Niger, with a thunderous round of applause.
It is with great pleasure that I am participating in this global assembly of hope, which addresses the theme Rebuilding and Renewing Our Nations in the Post-COVID-19 World. Interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values. On behalf of His Excellency Mr. Issoufou Mahamadou, President of the Republic of Niger, I take this opportunity to thank the founder of the Universal Peace Federation, Dr. Hak Cha-han Moon, the Mother of Peace, for this joyful initiative entitled the Rally of Hope, which allows the participants to convey messages of peace and a new moral, ethical, and spiritual, economic, and cultural vision. This fight is one that is led by the Universal Peace Federation. It is the fight for a more just world, a more humane world, a world of tolerance, and a more peace-loving way of doing things. Indeed, the founders of UPF consider that it is important today to recognize that living for the sake of others and for the public interest is the basis of development in an interdependent world. Mother Moon, as you so aptly pointed out in the context of this rally, the COVID-19 crisis has created disruption around the world. These disruptions have not only impacted the lives of those infected, their families and their loved ones, and also the lives of the healthcare workers, but they have also affected children whose schools have long been closed, workers who have lost their jobs, and companies that have been forced into bankruptcy. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 crisis has had significant impacts on the geopolitical balance of power, as well as on the global economy. It affects all sectors: religion, government, universities, education, business and the economy, families, the women and young people, the media and the environment. This means that Africa must confront not only the pandemic, but also the need to revive its economy. This fight on two fronts requires an exceptional mobilization of financial resources. Already before the pandemic, Africa needed $600 billion annually to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and those of Agenda 2063, in particular the objectives of its first 10-year plan of 2013 to 2023, among which the structure-providing projects related to the African Continental Free Trade Area, infrastructure, industry, and agriculture. These two agendas constitute the great vision around which all our energies remain mobilized. A decisive step in the implementation of these agendas was taken with the launch in July 2019 in Niamey of the African Continental Free Trade Area. For success to be sustainable, however, and for other projects to be implemented, it is necessary not only to guarantee funding, but also to guarantee stability, peace, and security. This is the place to renew Niger's sincere gratitude to all international donors, and in particular to the Mother of Peace, Mother Moon, for her financial support for the operational phase of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and for the implementation of the project for a blessed Africa. It must be emphasized that the scale of the economic crisis that our countries will experience requires financial support that goes beyond a simple debt moratorium. Our countries must be completely deleveraged and, in addition, provided with fresh resources. Since deleveraging through inflation, a process used by wealthy countries to get rid of their debts in the aftermath of World War II, is not an option, debt cancellation must be carried out despite the inequalities it will generate among beneficiary countries. At the present time, Africa is the least developed continent in the world, particularly south of the Sahara. Its population is estimated today at 1.2 billion souls and could reach 2.5 billion by 2050. It is characterized by its youth, hence an enormous potential labor force and consumers. The democratic transition underway on the continent will provide a highly productive working population with a strong capacity to save money, provided, of course, that young people are trained and educated. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to interfaith dialogue and cooperation, I can confirm that there are universal values that all people affirm beyond race, ethnicity, religion, or ideology. In my country of Niger, most of the population shares the Muslim faith, a religion whose holy book, the Quran, professes the brotherhood of all believers through verse 10 of Surah 49, which deserves to be studied in depth and explained to all humankind. I quote, "The believers are but brothers, so make settlement between your brothers, and fear Allah that you may receive mercy." End of quote. I think it is unnecessary for me to point out to you that we are talking about believers here, all believers. In my opinion, this verse contains the entire universal dimension of Islam, the imperative of peace that it professes, as well as its reaffirmation of the oneness of humanity. The President of the Republic, Isufu Mahamadou, and his government are calling on all Nigerians for a cultural renaissance. It will apply this code of values to three areas of modernization: social, political, and economic. Thus, the modernization we want for Niger is the cohesion and stabilization of the family unit, cemented by solidarity that banishes laziness, idleness, begging, and dependence on others. The social modernization that we want for Niger is the detribalization of our society. It is the reduction, in accordance with our constitution, of social relations based on clanism, tribalism, regionalism, and communitarianism. Ultimately, the cultural renaissance aims to rebuild our country on the spiritual, moral, political, and economic levels. So this is the Herculean mission that we are tackling with conviction and determination. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bow to the memory of the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, founder of the Universal Peace Federation. Salute the charismatic dynamism of Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, and pay deserved tribute to all the leaders of this organization. We are committed to making our contribution to the work of the international community for peace and understanding among peoples of the world. Thank you for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Excellence, pour votre message de paix et d'unité.
Thank you very much. Let us give another big round of applause for the inspiring message of peace and unity that His Excellency Brigadier Rafini has given us. Not long ago, I had a Zoom call together with His Excellency Rafini, and I was very grateful to see him healthy, happy, but also working so hard for his people. And his sincerity and also the hard work he's putting to really bring about a permanent world of peace moved me. He also, as is Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, well. And this Rally of Hope is also being broadcast live in Niger, and is also being broadcast live in South Africa, in Senegal, in Latin America. And Reverend Kim Sang-sok of Latin America mentioned that all of the cable TV and national broadcasters are relaying this Rally of Hope. And right now, the current feedback has been very positive, and we can really feel that we are one family of humanity connected together. Next is the fourth keynote address. The fourth speaker is His Excellency Jimmy Morales, former president of Guatemala. He served as president of Guatemala from 2016 until this year. During his time as president, he supported Guatemala's economic growth and national development. In December of last year, he played an important role as the host of the Latin America Summit, and also at the World Summit 2020 this year. He gave an amazing speech during the General Assembly of the International Summit Council for Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome His Excellency President Jimmy Morales with a warm round of applause.
Please receive my warm greetings from Guatemala. I thank the UPF and its founder, the Honorable Mother Moon, for her kind invitation to participate in this International Summit Council for Peace Rally of Hope. I would like to tell you a true story. There was a deadly disease that hit the people. Experts said it started in the East and then spread throughout the world. There was panic in the streets, and governments did not know what to do. So they began to cancel events, suspend activities, and close cities. The economy collapsed, and people realized the fragility of humanity. How familiar does this story sound to you? This happened 1800 years ago during the Antonine Plague, which hit the Roman Empire during the 2nd century. This means that this is not the first time that humanity has faced a disease like COVID-19. One question: if I asked you, what do you want the dawn of the day after the pandemic to be like? What would your answer be? While you are thinking about it, we will review history. In the 2nd century, humanity was hit by smallpox. At that time, the Roman Empire had 2 emperors, Marcus Aurelius and Lucius Verus. The latter died from the plague, so Marcus Aurelius had to rule alone from that moment on. Rome had just won a major battle against the Parthians, but that victory turned into a terrible tragedy, as the smallpox was brought back to Rome by the legionnaires, killing 1/3 of the empire's population. But what did the rulers and the citizens of those times do to successfully overcome this scourge? First, it is said that isolation in their houses and cities worked, but they realized that it was a temporary solution because economic activity had to continue. So they arranged that people could travel to other cities on condition of waiting 40 days in isolation before entering a city to carry out activities. And that is precisely where the term quarantine comes from. The second thing they did is that they called the best professionals. Emperor Marcus Aurelius, for example, called Galen, the best doctor of the time, to lead the fight against the smallpox. The third thing they did was that Marcus Aurelius redirected the budget of the empire. History shows that at that time, Rome did not invest in civil works, and the budget was instead allocated to help the most vulnerable. Marcus Aurelius did not increase the government debt. On the contrary, he decided to auction the assets of the empire, including his personal assets, to assist and help those most in need. One question: how long will the quarantine last? And after quarantine, will the virus have disappeared? Obviously not. Then we had better appeal to people's intelligence so that they will preserve the means of coexistence and thus preserve their life and health. Because as dangerous as a disease is, it is not through running away from it that it will disappear. Emperor Lucius Verus fled from Aquileia during the smallpox plague, but died anyway because the disease caught up with him. This brings to mind the question of a couple who are asking themselves 2 simple questions. How long will you stay with me? Do I prepare coffee or do I prepare my life? Smallpox, which plagued humanity in the 2nd century, was not eradicated until the 20th century. We may have the coronavirus with us for a long time yet, and yes, we must attack it, but also we must learn to live with it. In order to reach my conclusion, I will quote Marcus Aurelius one last time. He said, "Adapt yourself to the things among which your lot has been cast, and love sincerely the fellow creatures with whom destiny has ordained that you shall live." First conclusion: this lucky generation had to face the COVID-19 with all the scientific and technological advances that humanity has never had before. Then let's adapt ourselves to living with the physical distance, to improving our hygiene. Let's take advantage of technology to inform and stimulate the intelligent coexistence of our peoples. And let's show our true love to others with solidarity, fairness, equality, and justice for all. My second conclusion, we cannot ask everyone to stay locked in their houses because the state will not be able to subsidize food and sustenance to the entire population at a sustained rate, much less continuously. If there is no one to produce and pay taxes, people will not be able to subsist. They will have to go out to work and produce, maintaining the relevant precautions. And third, there is encouraging news of the vaccine, which is why all governments and world leadership must advocate that it be free for all people, and that in the case of pandemics, vaccine manufacturers put their solidarity for humanity before profit, and that states bear the cost of the medicine for their citizens with the goal of the preservation of life. Now, I tell you how I would like the dawn of the day after this pandemic to look. Inspired by Mother Moon's autobiography, I would like a blue sky with a radiant sun that illuminates the whole of humanity, giving hope of life to children, young people, and the elderly. And together, hand in hand, we can walk on a path of health, prosperity, and love. The question arises, what will you and I do after that day? To conclude, I want to acknowledge the effort of Mother Moon, who with her leadership promotes peace, family, and the integration of the world, with the message of united families based on love and fidelity. It is meritorious to recognize that in this difficult time of the pandemic, when everything has stopped, Mother Moon is leading this international summit and rally for peace based on interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values, hoisting the banner of the family and under the blessing of God. It is also my wish that in this year 2020, in which the 70th anniversary of the beginning of the Korean War is marked, this summit and rally will inspire the Korean people to raise the flag of reunification and allow the reunion of the 10 million separated families. The reunification of Korea would undoubtedly be the beginning of the restoration of peace in Northeast Asia and a good model for the actualization of world peace. Thank you very much for your attention. To UPF and the Honorable Mother Moon, thank you very much for your invitation to participate in this International Summit for Peace. God bless you.
Muchas gracias, Excelencia.
Let us give another big round of applause to His Excellency Jimmy Morales for his inspiring message of hope. So, 1800 years ago, just as we had the smallpox epidemic, today the world is suffering from the coronavirus epidemic. But Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon has been sharing the vision of one family of humanity under the Heavenly Parent. This was an inspiring message. And also, this is the 70th anniversary of the Korean War, and President Morales spoke about his wish for a heavenly unified Korea. Next is the 5th keynote address, which will be delivered by former President Alfred Moisiu of Albania. His Excellency Moisiu served as the 4th President of Albania from 2002 to 2007. During his tenure, he carried out many policies for Albania's development. He has also written many research papers in the fields of military science, national defense and security, as a military scholar who earlier served as a Minister of Defense. In October of last year, Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon visited Albania and through the Southeast European Peace Summit, launched an initiative for peace in the Balkans. President Moisiu is currently the head of the International Summit Council for Peace in Europe. Join me in welcoming His Excellency President Alfred Moisiu with a warm round of applause.
Oh, kanang na ako sa daplin gamay. Pero ako na sa pin. Nanugo ra.
Dear Dr. Moon, Your Excellencies, Ambassador for Peace,
Kana. Oh, kana.
I urge you in this important event
Oh,
wish you are
Nara.
doing well. We are
Kana, ni kabalulugig
in
ko.
time of crisis, like never seen before.
Oh, kana, nara ko nung my God.
Our board leaders protect deeply
Wow!
and live together. Of course, strategy how to move forward as a work country.
May po nang nabugati, kaya rin
We are
mo sila.
proud
Gani.
that you care.
Hindi ko na sila
Sama ni siya nga.
Under this leadership,
Nanguha ra magkuhan video na wala ginupagita siya naong.
please don't letting us to provide a platform of leading figures from the world of politics, religion, academia, business, and the media to contribute to the process of planning
Sabay-sabay tayong
our
manat.
world that needs to emerge from the current health crisis
Lupat siguro na
by identifying the values
Gani. Basit.
of the
Wala pa man na siya ma-charge ko.
mutual prosperity and universal values. In particular, rights
Ang kamera ni kaning nasa koan.
and retired by the International Standard Council of
Kaning naa
Peace
diri og gatubang nako.
has brought
Ah.
over 100 current and former heads of states and government with the great
Atin na mag-end ko na lang natin pila na ba.
to welcome the challenges
Mga pas
we face
mag-end.
Guys,
because
mag inom tatag tubig, minom sa kog tubig. Para dito
I
ko
will
pas.
not do this point. But the development
Mainom sa kog water.
is of
Hindi man.
being
Paano mo mag 7 hours? Saan
the
din?
end of civilization
Live gani na siya. Ako mo na presentation.
and ideologies.
Ha?
Ako
And
na
this being the conversation
So pasabot na natin mga ang tawin.
is addressed.
Kaya maligo pa ko.
It can be breached
Diya sa ka pagtangaw sa.
is not potential. On the space, because this relation is to be appreciated and appointed for its changing and its efforts to support this process in government and legal. As international peace, work hard and bring forward
Ulang yung siksik.
reconciliation process. In order for all of us to be behind the legacy of peace and nation conclusion, generations
Siksik na natin.
are destroyed
Siksik na natin.
including parents, and listen, youth. Thank you once again for allowing me to address this important event and hope that you will very much.
parlamenter 스케르 체시아 리와이. 여러분 멋진 연설을
Thank you
주신
very much.
알프레드
Let us
모이시오
give
대통령께
another
다시
big
한번
round of applause to His Excellency Alfred Moisiu, President of Albania, for his inspiring message.
So gaya ng imong tingog mo.
And not long ago, just a moment ago, I received a message that in
Kinsa man
Paraguay,
nga.
on the national broadcaster, online, on the TV, and also
Wala,
on
lagi
radio,
ko makita.
they're all watching together with us. It is indeed a miracle that everyone around the world is here with us, joined in this rally of hope. It is really a way of bringing together harmony through the values of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values of really marching towards a world of lasting peace. Next, but last but not least, is our final keynote speaker. It is His Excellency Stephen Harper, the 22nd Prime Minister of Canada. The Right Honorable Stephen Harper was Prime Minister of Canada from 2006 to 2016. During his time in office, he implemented firm policies for co-prosperity. He's currently serving as a chairman of the International Democratic Union. And in 2019, he delivered a keynote address which marked the 100th anniversary of Korea's independence movement. And he also attended the 2020 summit. During the World Summit 2019, Dr. Hak Ja Han-moon awarded him the International Summit Council for Peace Medal. And the Right Honorable Stephen Harper has prepared a special message for this rally. And after receiving the medal from Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon. He is now working as a member of ISCP. Let us welcome the Right Honorable Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister of Canada.
He is Stephen Harper.
Bonjour tout le monde. To honorable high office holders, past and present, to distinguished participants from around the world, and of course to our host, the Universal Peace Federation. Thank you for inviting me to join you once again. For the past 2 years, I've been a guest at the World Peace Summit in Seoul, South Korea. What an experience it has been. Perhaps nowhere else in the world is there such a gathering of experienced leaders from government, business, academia, and faith communities, representing the wide array of global nations and making such a broad contribution to global thought on the challenges facing humanity. As all who have attended can attest, it's an experience without parallel. My congratulations go to the Universal Peace Federation, to your chairman, Dr. Thomas Walsh, to your international president, Dr. Michael Jenkins, and to your Canadian president, my friend, Dr. Franco Fumalero. But especially to Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon. It's due to Dr. Moon's vision and inspiration that a global dialogue of this scale and of this quality is occurring at a time such as this. And what an extraordinary time this is. The pandemic of 2020 is an experience that no one alive today will ever forget. It's an experience that, for better or worse, will leave a lasting and indelible mark upon humanity. Many have compared it to the global financial crisis of 2008-2009. I was Prime Minister of Canada at that time, and there are aspects of this crisis that remind me of those times. But there are some very big differences. For one, this is a significantly more difficult crisis. It's both an economic crisis and a health crisis. And the solutions for the one run counter to the solutions for the other. This is why, contrary to much commentary, we can have no idea which countries, quote, have it right or are, quote, getting it wrong. This is without precedent, and we do not yet know the full outcomes on either front. Another big difference from the global financial crisis is in the realm of international cooperation. In November 2008, shortly after the global financial crisis began, I was part of a meeting at the White House convened by George W. Bush, a meeting of the world's biggest economies and its leading international financial institutions. It was, in effect, the first ever meeting of the G20. In a couple of days' work, we drafted the basis of an international plan to deal with the crisis. Much work remained to be done at the national level, but the outlines of a global response took shape. It involved significant international cooperation and avoided many potentially systemically damaging actions. This time, there has been nothing resembling such international collaboration. And so we've seen a myriad of conflicting economic closures and travel restrictions, a completely unnecessary global oil war, fights over supplies of personal protective equipment, and now the competitive race for primacy and superiority in the development of a vaccine. I wish I could tell you that what we have witnessed is an aberration, but I think the reality is that the reasons for this lack of international cooperation run deep. International institutions cannot function effectively without the cooperation and leadership of the world's strongest powers. Today, there is not such leadership. The United States is not willing to provide it. This is not just about the current US administration. The American public is exasperated with its global leadership role, which has far too often left the United States with wildly disproportionate burdens and obligations for which the American public sees little commensurate benefit. China cannot fill the void for a different reason. It is not widely trusted. And when we look at its role in the early spread of the virus, how could it be? And for its part, the European Union remains focused on the internal divisions that have become much more challenging in the decades since the global financial crisis. So the lack of international cooperation today is very explicable, but that does not mean that this state of affairs is not risky. On the contrary, we're entering this phase of non-collaboration in the world at just the moment when global challenges will be particularly pressing and often do require global solutions. The pandemic is one, climate change is another. But I'm talking in particular about the global economy. I've been saying three things since March. These were controversial back then, but not so much now. First, the scale of the economic downturn has been underestimated. Of course, analysts have been revising their forecasts and now concede a global GDP drop of at least 5%, which will be well in excess of the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. Second, the speed of the economic recovery has been overestimated. There will be no V-shaped recovery. It will likely be 2 years before even the strongest economies return to their pre-COVID levels. Third, the current level of economic and fiscal intervention by governments is unsustainable. These are already multiple times higher than during the global financial crisis. They point to widespread sovereign debt pressures in the next few years and the need for fiscal austerity at precisely the time when much of the public expects the opposite. Watch for this. As the worst of the virus passes, which it will, and as the economic downturn lingers, which it will, the political solidarity experienced in many countries during the pandemic will turn to anger over the economy. Anyone in power today will face that anger, and their survival in that position, especially but not exclusively those seeking re-election, will be in severe jeopardy. We saw this after 2008, 2009. Few elected leaders survived that economic crisis. And as I say, this one will be worse in its impacts. As we know, at such times, there can be an inclination for leaders and nations to turn to easy but ultimately disastrous solutions: protectionism, socialism, and aggression in international affairs. And that's why it's essential that we understand our interdependence in this world, work together to rebuild our mutual prosperity, and act on shared values rather than zero-sum strategies. It is indeed for precisely these objectives that this Universal Peace Federation Ray of Hope gathering is being broadcast. Now, that said, let me just add that it's important we pursue these objectives not simply with our hearts open, but with our eyes open even wider. For example, while we should resist protectionism, we can no longer pretend that countries that pursue purely export-driven growth strategies are free traders. We cannot continue to watch our existing jobs go to those countries while our workers have little opportunity to sell their products or services into those markets. It's essential that countries that pursue such export-driven managed trade strategies be similarly treated. Likewise, we cannot just pretend that international bodies, like the World Health Organization, are useful in advancing shared aspirations when they put the national politics of some above the international mandate they are supposed to be pursuing. They either must reform themselves or we must seek better avenues of cooperation outside of them. And finally, we must recognize that history shows that the rights and freedoms of ordinary people are critical to creating and sustaining our prosperity and peace over time. In other words, we should not pretend that those states which deny freedom, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law share values with us. We should stand unequivocally for those values and for those who fight for them. As South Korea, Taiwan, and many others in the world have shown, authoritarian rule is in no way necessary or desirable to successfully resist a pandemic. Now, obviously, what I've laid out is a tall order to confront very serious challenges, to do so through encouraging collective efforts, while also being prepared to confront those who undermine our common good. But if there is any organization capable of convening a truly global network of people to genuinely shared efforts, then it is this one, the Universal Peace Federation. Thank you again for giving me your attention, and God bless you in your deliberations.
Thank you.
To the Right Honorable Stephen Apple. for your wisdom and courage to inspire unity and cooperation between all nations. 여러분 멋진 연설을
Let us
해주신
give
스티븐 하퍼
another
전사에게 다시
round of
한번 큰
applause to
감사의
the Right
박수를
Honorable
보내주시면
Stephen Harper
좋겠습니다.
for his wonderful message.
2008년,
In 2008 and in 2009, international cooperation was possible through such incredible leaders. But as we face the crisis of COVID-19, the leaders of the world need to come together and work together, just as in 2008 and 9. And the Right Honorable Stephen Harper mentioned that initiatives such as Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon's UPF really help in bringing the world together. We have heard the speeches of 6 eminent leaders. Although we may differ in terms of nationalities or location, we are all united in overcoming all of the challenges and the problems caused by COVID-19 and various other problems afflicting today's citizens. It is through interdependence, mutual values, and mutual prosperity and universal values that we can solve these problems. Let us give another heartfelt round of applause to our 6 eminent speakers.
오늘 우리는
Today,
신통일 세계
we
안착을
begin a
위한
long
희망의
journey
전진을 위한
of hope
대장정의 첫
towards the
걸음을 내디디고
realization of a heavenly
비록
unified
국가,
world.
종교,
Although
인종,
we may be different
문화가
in terms
다르다
of
할지라도
nationality,
공생,
religion,
공영,
race,
공의를
or
통한
culture,
항구적인
we are
세계 평화
united
실현을
in the
위해
cause of
우리는
realizing a
하나
lasting world of peace
이러한
through
희망의 발걸음이
advocating for
코로나
interdependence,
바이러스
mutual
팬데믹과
prosperity, and
집안
universal
문제 등으로
values.
갈등과
It is my sincere hope
분열로 가는
that these
세상에
efforts can become a
희망의
hope,
빛이
a
되기를
light to the
소원합니다.
world,
9월
which
6일
can help us
희망전쟁
overcome the
이러한 우리의
challenges we
하나됨의
face. I
외침이
sincerely hope
더욱더
that the
큰
call
메아리로
that we can unite as
세상에
one and
울리기를
overcome these
기원합니다.
challenges
그럼
in the
이상으로
next
신통일
September
세계
6th
안착을 위한
Rally of Hope.
희망전쟁
This
대회
concludes
모든 순서를
the Rally of Hope
여러분들의
for the
큰 박수로
realization of a
마치도록
heavenly
하겠습니다.
unified world. Let us end today's rally with a thunderous round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys, sa panonood ng rally. Goodbye. August 12. Advertisement na ito siya. Napa, marag yapon. Unsa man ni sila wala.
Yan na?
Oo, nag-goodbye naman to siya. Nag-goodbye na ganina ang speaker, ang MC. Pero napay.
Wala?
Wala na siguro na. Ato ano na yung tanang napay presentation. Naay na siya ni adto gidagay dito sa kuano, sa venue. Pero mga kuan ra, mga VIP ra siguro na sila. Wala na, August 9. Korea Standard Time. Wala. The pre-economy performance starts. Ay! Nawala na siguro ni?
Mag-end na. 7 hours siya. Oo, wala na.
Wala na. Sige, bye-bye na.
Nag-stop na siya. Oo, wala na. Wala na.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye-bye na. Goodbye.
Pila ka oras?
Pila ka oras?
1 hour ka, te.
1 hour? Okay. Nato na ning iyo.
Wala na, no?
Wala na.
Oo, nag-end na dito. Mo na yung channel, English, Rally Hope.
Rally of English. Letter B.
Kuratan ko.
English Rally of Hope.
Mo na iyan ko ano. Dagan
Ako
siya
siya.
subscriber, te.
Pwede, isave ko na sa ako Dili pwede isave. Ay, ako rin yung mag-save na.
Wala na, ako lang i-subscribe.
Sige. Ang sa to siya, English Rally of Hope.
Yan na, ne?
Yan na siya. Nagbabay na ko. Wala na.
Ato talaga.